Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. To my returning subscribers, I thank you so much for staying true to my channel. And if you are just seeing me for the first time, you're very much welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please do well to subscribe to my channel and also turn on the notification bell so that you'll be notified once I drop a new video. All right, let's go into today's discussion. So we are asking this question: should you dye your hair, be it natural hair, relaxed hair, dreadlocks, whatever kind of hair you have on? Should you dye it? That's what we're discussing today. So, first of all, we are going to look into why people dye their hair in the first place. Why do people dye their hair? Okay, one thing you should know is that dyeing of hair has nothing to do with improving the health of one's hair, improving the structure of one's hair. It has nothing to do with improving the hair in its quality. Okay, dyeing of hair is just strictly cosmetic for beautification purposes. That's what dyeing of hair is for. Okay, so some people just want to be on top of the trend. They see trendy colors and they just want this pop of color on their head. Okay, for some people, they want to restore their hair to the original color because it has been discolored by hairdressing processes or from the sun. When there's so much exposure of the hair to sunlight, it makes the color of the hair to fade out or to bleach. So some of them dye their hair so as to restore their hair back to their original color. Okay. For some people, they are not confident about their hair, especially maybe if they have gray hair coming in and they're not cool with the gray hair. So they are going to dye their hair to bring it to the color they prefer. Okay. So these are some of the reasons why people dye their hair. Okay. So now we go to the question: should you dye your hair? Actually, there's no yes or no answer to this question. Okay. This question depends on two factors. One of them is you as the individual, your preferences, what you like, what you're crazy about. That's one thing. Then another thing is that the nature of your hair will be put into consideration. Your hair structure, your hair nature, is it strong enough to withstand dye or not? So these are the things to consider if you should dye your hair or not. Now, one thing I'm going to say to you all is that whether you believe it, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, once you dye your hair, it automatically alters the natural structure of your hair. I'm going to say this thing again. Whether you believe it or not, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, once you dye your hair, it will automatically tamper with the natural structure of your hair, leaving your strands to be more fragile, more bristle, okay? And you are going to be experiencing a lot of dryness and frizziness too. You're going to have a lot of dryness, okay? So this is what you should remember before you dye your hair. And a word of caution to anyone who already has hair damage, that before now you're already battling with issues concerning your hair. Please and please just forget about dyeing. It is not wise. It is just going to further damage your hair, going to worsen your already existing condition of your hair. Okay. So even after knowing the things involved in dye, and you say you still want to go ahead to dye your hair, you really want to dye your hair, there are a lot of things you have to put into consideration before and after you dye your hair. Okay, dyeing your hair comes with a lot of work, so you should get ready for that if you have finally decided that you should dye your hair. Okay, first thing first is for you to do a lot of research. You have to research to make an informed decision that you really know what you're about to get into and that you are ready mentally, physically, emotionally, everything that is involved, even financially, everything that is involved in maintaining colored hair. There's a lot of work involved, so you have to be informed about that. You have to be knowledgeable about that. You have to educate yourself about all those things that are involved in coloring your hair. Okay, now let us go to the things that you need to do before you dye your hair. Okay, you have to prepare your hair for the day you're going to dye it. Okay, you don't just jump up one day and say, "Ah, I feel like I should dye my hair." Okay, no, you don't do that. You have to prepare in advance. So these are the things you have to do before you dye your hair. I've said it earlier, you have to do a lot of research so that you are in a better position to make a right decision that is best for you. That is the very first thing you are going to do. Then, when you have finally decided that you really want to dye your hair, the second thing that you should do is to wash your hair days in advance, maybe even up to a week in advance. The reason being that is that you are going to wash off excess oils in your hair, product residues, and debts that have built up in your hair. So you want to wash all that out so that the dye can penetrate very well into your strands. Okay, but a word of caution too, please do not wash your hair a day or two before you are going to dye your hair. Okay, it's going to be too clean and it's going to present your hair to more damage from the harsh chemicals from the dye. So you want to leave your hair washed days in advance so that there's still going to be some oils in your hair. Your hair is still going to have some moisture and all, so that when the dye is applied to your hair, it's not going to cause a lot of damage. Okay. Another thing you are supposed to do in advance is to deep condition your hair. Okay, you have to deep condition your hair so that it's going to provide you additional protection from the damage that is being caused by dye. Another thing you should also do is, if you notice that you have split ends, you're having a bit of breakages at your ends, you want to trim off these split ends. Okay, because if you do not do so, when you apply the dye to your hair, you are going to have further breakage and further damage to your hair. Another thing you should also do is to invest in good quality dye. Okay, you don't want to go for just any kind of dye, mini cheap dye or something. Since this is something you have decided you want to do, you want to go for good quality dye so that you're going to get extra benefits from using this good quality dye. These dyes contain extra components that other low quality dyes do not contain, that will give your hair further protection from the damage that comes from dyeing your hair. Now, after you have dyed your hair, you have to be prepared for extra work. You are going to have to give your hair extra attention. In fact, you have more work to do now that you have dyed your hair. Okay, for one thing, you do not wash your hair very often. This is because if you wash your hair too often, you are going to make the color of your hair to fade out. Okay, and you do not want that after doing so much work to make this dye stick, and now you are washing more often, you're just going to make the color to fade out. Okay, so you don't want to wash your hair too often. Another thing you have to consider is, when you eventually have to wash your hair, you want to make sure you are using the right shampoo for your hair. Okay, not all shampoos are made for colored hair. Okay, some shampoos are specifically made for colored hair because they are milder in the chemicals being used. That mild chemical is going to be mild on your hair. It's not going to be so harsh and cause further damage. So the chemicals in these shampoos are milder. So you want to consider that. Then the chemicals too in the shampoo are made to preserve the color of your hair. Okay, that's why you should choose a color based shampoo. Okay, shampoo that is made to protect colored hair. Okay, if you go for just any shampoo, by the time you're done washing your hair, you find out that the color has faded. Okay, so you want to select the shampoo. You make sure you're using the right shampoo for your hair. Okay, another thing you have to consider is that you have to moisturize, hydrate, and hydrate. You have to be doing this more than you used to do before you dyed your hair, because the dye naturally dries out your hair, makes your strands to become more fragile and more bristle. So you have to do extra moisturizing to see how you can reduce the damage that dye does to your hair. Okay, so you have to moisturize a lot, you have to hydrate a lot. Okay, you also have to deep condition. In fact, you have to do this more often than you used to do before. Okay, so this will help to provide extra protection for your hair. You also have to use protein based treatments. Okay, these protein-based treatments help to repair whatever damage that the dye has done to your hair. Okay, so you have to use protein-based treatments. Now you have to avoid any hairstyle that involves heat. Okay, heat is not your friend at this point. Once you have dyed your hair, you have to avoid heat as much as possible, or you reduce the amount of heat that is being used on your hair, because heat is just going to be breaking off these already fragile strands. It will break them down. More often you have a lot of breakage. So please and please avoid hairstyles that involve heat. Now, if you must do a hairstyle that involves heat, you have to use heat protector for your hair, so that at least it's going to protect your hair from the heat that is involved in this styling. Okay, now if you are in a place or an environment where the sunshine there is so high, is so much, you will need to use sun filter or UV protection products, okay, to protect your hair from the UV rays from the sun, from the extra heat, excess heat from the sun. Because if you're always going under the sun without any form of protection, your hair is going to fade very fast. Okay, so you need this protection, UV protection or sun filter, whichever way you know them. You need to use them for your hair. Okay, another thing you have to consider is please and please avoid swimming pools. Okay, now the reason why you should avoid swimming pools is because the water in the pools contain chlorine, and chlorine is just like bleach, is going to uh, make the color of your hair fade out. Or if it doesn't make the color of your hair fade out, it's going to change the color of the hair to something that wasn't what was on your hair before. Okay, so if you must use the pool, you want to make sure your head is out of the water. And if you want your hair to be in the water, you want to make sure you have this waterproof covering to protect your hair from the chlorine. Okay, you also want to use hot oil treatments. Okay, these hot oil treatments will provide additional moisture, additional oils to your hair to help to protect your hair from dryness and further damage and hair breakage. You also do not want to dye too often. You cannot say, oh, I've had this color of dye for a week or two, and you feel like you want to change it to something else. You're now bored about the color, you want something more exciting, so you decide to change your hair color. No, it doesn't work like that. Okay, you can't just change your hair color anytime you like. You have to wait up to a month or two before you can change the color of your hair. Okay, that's 1 month. It's even for someone that their hair can handle all the harsh chemicals that are in dye. But if your hair structure is delicate, you want to wait for 2 months before you decide to change the color of your hair. Okay, and if you now say, okay, I don't even want to dye my hair anymore, I want my hair to go back to where it was before I dyed it, please know that your hair can never go back to the way it was before you dyed it. It is not possible. Okay, if you decide to bleach your hair to remove the colors, that is additional problem. Okay, you want to try to avoid bleach as much as possible, because bleach is going to further dry your hair, further make your hair fragile, and it's not even going to give you the desired result. It's only going to fade out the color that was on your hair. It's not going to take it back to the original way your hair was before. Okay, there are also hair dye removers. Okay, these hair dye removers do not give you instant results. You have to wash your hair as much as 4, 5, 6 times before you get the desired result you're looking for. Even at that, they do not take your hair back to where it was before you dyed it. They will only fade out the color on your hair. So the best thing for you, if you are tired of the color that is on your hair and you want to change it back to where you're coming from, is just to dye your hair to the color that you had before you dyed your hair. Take it back to like the original color. You have to dye it to do that. Okay, so these are things you have to consider. Okay, in all, you have to treat your hair gently. Remember, the composition of your hair is no longer what it used to be before. It is now fragile. The structure is now fragile. So you have to treat your hair like egg. Okay, so you have to be gentle with your hair. You have to mind how your hair rubs against any kind of surface, or you have to mind how you put your hands in your hair. Okay, because all this friction is not going to do your hair any good. It's going to lead to breakage, it's going to lead to more damage. So you have to be gentle with the way you treat your hair. Okay, now after knowing all of this, some of you might begin to wonder, wow, do you think I really even need to dye my hair? Like, is there no safe way one can dye one's hair or have a pop of color without having all this damage? Well, the safe way that I know, at least is fair, is that you don't have to dye the entire hair. That's the safe way. You don't have to dye the entire hair. Okay, for people that have natural hair and dreadlocks, you might want to consider dyeing the tips. Okay, you want to dye the tips of your locks or your hair, or you might want to do the ombre method where you can dye your locks halfway. Okay, so you don't have to get all the way to the root. Okay, you see, this your scalp, where the root of your hair is, that is where most of the problems take place. Okay, that is where most of the damages are done. So when you avoid hair as much as possible, you are surer of a more healthy hair, a healthier hair. Okay, so you might want to do the ombre method, or you just do your tips. That way you can still have this pop of color that you desire without necessarily damaging your whole hair. Okay, so with this in mind, with all that I've said, you are now in a better position to know if you should dye your hair or not. And if you have not already started this process, please and please do a lot of research before you make your decision, so that you know what you are getting into. And if you have dyed your hair, please and please, I would like you to contribute to this discussion. You can drop a comment in the comment section below to tell us what positive or negative effects you experienced when you dyed your hair. Please share this information so that others can learn from it too. Okay, I hope you learned one or two things from this video. Please drop your comments in the comment section below. If you have any questions too, please do well to ask. Okay, so this is where we come to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you have not done so. Please share this video, like it too if you have not done so, and also turn on the notification bell so that you'll be notified once I drop a new video. All right, thank you so much. See you in my next video. Bye.